Welcome to the Fire Family Collective podcast, the show dedicated to supporting the unsung heroes of the fire service, the wives, partners, and families who hold down the fort while their firefighters serve.
This episode of the Fire Family Collective podcast is brought to you by the Ventura Fire Foundation, the City of Ventura Parks and Rec Department, the Gene Haas Foundation, and SoCal Edison. If you would like to support our mission to strengthen firefighter families, please click the link in the show notes or visit us at firefamilycollective.org.
Hello, welcome to the Fire Family Collective. I am Amanda Ellis, and I am so excited to talk with Katie Kada today. She is joining us from Virginia, and we have some very similar background. So I'm very excited to have some time to chat with you today. Thanks for being here, Katie. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a fire wife. You used to be a teacher. You have 3 kids. Let's hear it.
So I have been married for 7.5 years. When my husband and I got married, he was in the fire academy. And so it was a tough time in a way because he was, in a strict schedule and whatnot. There was no honeymoon because our life was the fire academy. A year later, we had our first daughter. And then 2 years after that, we had our second daughter. And about a year and a half later after that, we had our son. So we have 3 kids. And I taught for about 12 years here in Virginia. I taught kindergarten, first grade, and I taught special education. So I stopped teaching when our second daughter was born, just to save on childcare, but also to kind of accommodate the fire wife schedule. It just was what was easiest for us. So I am still at home with our kids and contemplating going back to work once our youngest gets back into school. So
that's awesome. So I can relate. I was a classroom teacher myself for about 5 years before having our first son. So 12 years is a long time. And I applaud you. Teachers are incredible. And now homeschooling our kiddos, I have a different appreciation as a parent than I did as a teacher, just, without kids yet. So, and then 3 kids, I'm barely hanging on with my 2. So kudos to you holding down the fort and doing it all and being a part of this community to just be here with one another. So I'm super grateful for that. One of the things that I love that you shared is your propaganda you're not falling for. So can we chat about that?
yes.
So as it's like a funny social media thing, but it's also like real.
Right.
And I'm curious, why you shared what you did with he only works a certain amount of shifts and you must have a supportive village, which I've come to really realize now as a mom means a lot.
Right.
And at least you have consistent, which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of these social media trends, right? All these TikTok trends and videos and things that come up. But I thought that one was interesting because I feel like, being a fire wife is one of those things that's really misunderstood. Even being a first responder is very misunderstood. And I think their understanding comes from TV shows and it comes from books. And it's like this glorious life and you only have to work a couple hours and that kind of thing. It's very misconstrued. And so I think when I talk to other people, they're always shocked, like, oh, they're gone for 24 hours, like they don't just go at night or they don't just work 12 hours. And I'm like, he works 24 hours. And I think people just have a big misunderstanding of the life just in general. And I feel the same way about teachers. People always said, oh, at least you have your summers off. And you're like, it's like the biggest eye rolls, right? It's like, it's very misunderstood. So yeah, I wanted to kind of jump on that trend just because I think that, it's not just the hours, it's the schedule. It's the, people think, oh, well, that's so nice. He must work like the same schedule. It's really predictable. And I'm like, that's the one thing. It's so unpredictable. It's almost the opposite of what people think. So even just good friends of mine, they're like, oh, he's off for this many days. And you're like, well, hopefully,
Maybe.
right. It's like, well, he's home for the holidays. I'm like, no, not at all. Or, it's just one of those things that's very misunderstood. So I thought that was kind of an interesting trend to kind of try and hop on, just to kind of shed light. So.
Yeah. I think that we have this consistency idea of what their set schedule should be for the, rest of time if they stay on that schedule,
right.
if they don't promote, if they're not in training,
right.
if they don't get mandated, if, and not other traditional careers have that, right? You just have like your set teaching schedule, you have your set Monday through Friday schedule. You don't have all these ifs, and people don't understand that. And I think that is just something, to inform people of, because they're not these like heroes personified in these Hollywood dream stories that we see on, TV and whatnot. So it's hard sometimes to kind of shatter people's glass, right? Because you don't want to like be such a downtrodden person, but you're like, this is the harsh reality of our life, and it's not all beauty. So yeah. And then go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like it is great. They can have, like, my husband has 4-day weekends here and there, right? And that's great. But that only happens if he doesn't get held, he doesn't sign up for overtime, like you were saying, all these ifs. And I don't think people realize that. They hear, oh, they work 24-hour shifts. They only work 9 times a month. That's great. And you're like, well, that is it. Everything falls into place, right? Like that's just on a lucky day, lucky week if he only works those 3 shifts, or he comes home on time, that kind of thing. So,
and when you average it out for us here at the department my husband works at, it's 10 shifts a month, and that averages to about 60 hours a week. And most people aren't typically putting in 60 hours a week. So there's that other side of it where you're like, you see just this number of like, oh, it's only 10. That's not that much. But it's like, okay, in 60 hours times 4, that's already 20 extra hours a week. Like they're already working above and beyond what a typical, salary, whatever schedule person is. And it just adds to what we as a family face at home of our reality of he's gone that much more. And it's a challenge.
Right. Or like my husband's schedule is kind of crazy. It's, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 4 days off. And people hear, oh, like they're off all those days. And I'm like, yeah, but he also hasn't slept those 3 days that he's at work. So he has to, so those days in between aren't necessarily wonderful days off. They're like him trying to catch up on sleep so he can go to work again the next day. And so it's not just what's on paper and on the calendar. It's kind of all those things behind the scenes, and that on those days off, they're not the typical day off,
Yeah. It's the decompressing. It's the gearing back up to go. It's the processing what calls they ran. It's catching up on family stuff at home they missed out on. It's so many layers of things, and it's not just what's on paper.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, that was fun. I also wanted to chat about your prioritizing you, which I'm so freaking excited to hear. Your 75 soft, which I absolutely love. When we first had our son in 2019, my husband decided to do the 75 hard, which was insanity.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember if he finished it, to be honest with you. Because I was a newborn blur.
Yeah.
But tell me about that. You're prioritizing you. I freaking love that. I'm cheering you on. I want to hear about it.
Thank you. Yeah. So the soft 75, I saw somewhere and I was like, oh, that's something I could possibly do, right? Like the hard 75 just isn't for me. The hard 75, I think you're supposed to work out twice a day and one has to be outside. And we live in Virginia, which is like, could be 50 one day and it could be like 85 the next day. And so, yeah. And it's been raining for like 4 days here. So the hard 75 was not for me, but the soft 75, I was trying to do of just moving more, exercising when I can. I've kind of realized over the years, like I can't commit to something and be super hard on myself about that and not flexible because things come up, colds happen, right? And so you can't make it to that exercise class. So I was just trying to find something that I could do that was manageable. Just getting more steps in, drinking more water, little things that like I apparently don't do enough, you know?
But they
Um,
add up.
yes, yes. And I liked the idea of the 75 days because again, it's not limiting yourself to like 1 month or saying I'm going to do it, 5 days a week, that kind of thing. It was more of just trying to get in the habit um, of doing things more regularly, exercising, walking. I ended up buying one of those like walking pads for inside because again, I could walk outside if the weather always cooperates, but it doesn't here. So the walking pad has helped. I will still watch my reality TV, but I will do it while walking, or I'll read a book and try and walk while my son naps and things like that, just to get more movement in. Because after, gosh, 3 kids and 6.5 years, I just wasn't doing that. I think in my mind, I had a hard time, signing up for like a gym membership, knowing I'm not going to make it every day or I'm not going to be able to go as many times as I would love to because of childcare. I can't, we still have one at home, so I can't always go to cycling class like I would love to. But when my husband's at work, I have to watch him. So for me, I had to find something that was manageable, that I could still do. I still go to cycle classes if I'm able to, but I'm not going to, get upset if I can't do that every day. I would love to, but yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of my thing, just trying to find something after, 3 kids. I was like, okay, I need to get something back, do something.
I can so relate. So we had this incredible fitness center when we lived in Sacramento, and then trying to like keep having that after having kids. First off, like, after you have them, they have to be a certain age to be able to like put them in the childcare.
Right.
But it just didn't work for us.
Mhm.
And I miss that because I had found community there, and, it was a part of my self-care and making me feel like Amanda.
Right.
And losing that after having both kids, I didn't, excuse me, I didn't realize how much it was affecting me.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting being back in this phase where now I'm like a year into consistently taking care of myself.
Mhm.
And finally, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I went without this for however many years I did. And I talked to my sisters and some other friends about, growing up and playing sports. And I didn't really think about all of the layers of that side of it as well. Like, I went to yoga a few weeks ago in person with another fire wife, and I haven't done that since before my kids were born. So over 5 years, like, that's insanity.
Mhm.
Why have I not gone to one single in-person yoga class?
Right.
I can't even tell you. Like, there's
Right.
nothing good excuse wise I
Mhm.
can share.
Did you know the Fire Family Collective has a parenting course for firefighter wives and partners? Join Amanda Ellis, fire wife and mother of 2, and Tiffany Atala, also a fire wife, mother of 2, and a licensed marriage and family therapist, as they guide you through navigating parenthood at every stage. Learn how to build resilience, foster connection, and create a strong family unit amidst the unpredictable nature of fire life. Join the Fire Family Collective to access the course. A link is in the show notes.
It's just hard when our village is or isn't there, and showing up for ourselves in the way we can. Like, for me, I mean, it was literally just hard enough to brush my teeth
Right.
those first few months as a new mom.
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine anything else besides changing out of the clothes I slept in
Mhm.
and brushing my teeth,
Right.
let alone realizing that I lost this huge part of me
Mhm.
and movement and drinking water and all of those other things. Like, that was so off my radar.
Right.
So again, kudos to you. You have 3 kids, and figuring out how it does work in our unique, dynamic fire first responder life is challenging, and it looks different for all of us because
Mhm.
maybe some days all 3 kids are home and the weather is great and you go for a family walk.
Right.
And maybe some days the weather isn't great and now you
Mhm.
have a walking pad and you are getting to move and enjoy something you love, like reading or watching a show, and just going to a different place outside of what's really happening around you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I applaud you because I can really understand with empathy how it feels for myself to have that again. And I am very excited and encouraging you. And I don't know where you're at on date, what day you're on. I didn't do the math, but
Yeah, I think it's been 75 days, but it's interesting because it's like I'm not necessarily noticing, oh, I've lost all this weight or, things like that, but it's like the mental piece, I think. Um, One thing that I've started doing is reading. And like I haven't read since like when I was a teacher, summers were for my reading, right? Like I love to go to the pool and read a book, like read books during the summer. And then once I started having kids, I was too tired to read. Like I remember a couple times opening a book and literally falling asleep sitting up trying to read, after my kids went to sleep. And so that's another thing that I've gotten really into. And it's been so nice because I think what's hard too is when my husband's away, I have lots of little kids to talk to, but I don't have adults. And so kind of reading has been kind of like a nice escape. I don't have to, scroll on my phone. I don't watch TV as much anymore. And I love it. Like I love the reading aspect of it. I love being able to read again, having the energy and the mental space to do that and not fall asleep. But yeah, it's been like I didn't think I was a reader, and I read 2 books in the last week. I'm like, who is this person?
isn't that amazing?
Fun. Yeah, it's been really nice. So not just, the health habits, I guess, but just kind of like the mental piece of it too. Because I
Yeah.
feel like when my husband's gone for 24 hours, the reading and the movement just makes the day go by so much faster.
Yeah.
Just in general. So
I think that the reading is similar. Last fall, one of the like Firewives groups got together and they were talking about ACOTAR.
Oh,
And I was like, I'm not really like a fairy tale fantasy type person. I don't really know. And they're like, well, like just start with like romance. And so I was like, okay, like back in the day, like John freaked out when I read Twilight. He was like, too far. You can't read that. And I loved it. It was great. So, anyways, it's just been really fun. And there's different groups outside of the fire department of women that I've connected with in reading and sharing books. And we pass books along to one another. We like send each other Audible links to listen to books together, and then we can chat about it. And it just is nice, like you said, because I'm with tiny humans all day and I can't always talk to adults. And so even just listening or reading words on a page and then texting a friend about that and feeling like I have some connection outside of my crazy mind and my children, it's really nice.
Yeah. And I think another piece of it too is my oldest has just started reading. And so we would go to the library before anyways, but she's now like watching me read and she'll be like, what is your book about? I'm like, it's an adult topic.
Yes.
It's not really kid friendly. Or she'll be like, can you tell me what's going on in your book? So it's kind of funny because I wanted just to read, so I wasn't scrolling on my phone as much. I wasn't, but then I was like, the other part of this is she's seeing me read all the time and she's really into reading. And now the library trips are more fun, and things like that. We talk about our books. And so it's been really like a neat, I think, a positive change just in general. But yeah,
for sure.
Not talking to other adults is crazy. I mean, even being a teacher, a kindergarten teacher for years, I was surrounded by little kids, but you still had those other adults, right, to talk to and kind of, at least make eye contact with and stuff. And so I think part of being a stay-at-home mom, you're like, wow, if we're at home and it's just us, you miss that,
Yeah.
with other adults. So
yeah. And that's a really great point, like you said, about modeling for our kids, right? So with you drinking water, it just brings all these conversations up, like with you moving, with you doing a family walk, whatever it looks like, is just that example for them that we're setting so they can actually see us taking care of ourselves and the different ways it can look like for me versus my husband. And compared to other people, they're just showing them different ways that light them up, that make them feel better. And we're telling our kids all the time when, like, my husband went to the gym yesterday and they're like, oh, why are you leaving?
right.
And he was like, because I need self-care and this is the way daddy takes care of himself. And like I said, I went to yoga a few weeks ago. So like the kids knew I was actually leaving the house to go work out and be with another human, and showing them that like this brings me joy. Like you like going on play dates, you like going to ride your bike at the bike park, whatever it is. And like showing them the connection of how they find joy in taking care of themselves and how we find it for ourselves too.
Right. And I think that was so hard for when my kids were, I mean, my youngest is 2, but for those first couple of years, it's so hard to leave the house, like they were attached to me. And I mean, sometimes like my husband would be like, go, they're not looking, like just go for it, cause I mean, I really did have to like pry them off me to leave the house. And now the more that I do it, they're like, all right, see ya. Like, bye. I'm like, months
Yes.
ago, they were like attached to me, or they'll say like, I don't want you to go. Like, that's valid, but I'll be home soon. I'm going to be on 1 hour, and then
Right.
it's my hour, and then I'll be home, and I'll probably be a little bit like nicer and have more energy.
100%.
So yeah, it's funny just the change and just going a couple months, like on a regular basis. It's easier for them too. Like they know what to expect. They know I'll be home. It's not a big deal for them. Before it
Yeah.
was like, oh, we don't want you to go. And I was like sneaking out of the house. But even last night I was going to a cycling class. My husband was like, why don't you just go now? Because it doesn't start for like 45 minutes. He's like, just go sit in your car. Just enjoy the peace. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to be sitting in a parking garage. He was like, it's a little more peaceful, don't you think? And I'm like, great, I will go do that. But it's funny. I felt it was so hard to leave the house, for so many years with little kids. Because you're home with them for 24 hours. And now it's like, right, yeah, I'm going to leave. I'm going to get out while I can.
Yes. It's that mom guilt. It is so pervasive in so many aspects of life, and being able to just work on it internally is the only way. And then actually making action like you did last night, right? Like
Right.
leaving early, getting that extra
Right.
time that you deserve
Right.
just to be. And that's it.
Yeah. And I think for so long too, when our kids, I mean, even as our kids were like babies and stuff like that, when he was a when my husband came home from work, I would think to myself like, oh, we have to be home. We have to spend time together, right? Like he's finally home. Like I don't want to go to a class. I don't want to like be away from my family. And now I'm like, it's 1 hour, like, and it will benefit me. It'll benefit everybody. But I don't feel that guilt, I guess, as much anymore about taking that hour to myself. When before I would have been like, no, he's finally home. Like we have to go to the playground as a family. Now my husband's like, I'll take them to the playground. You go work out. So it's changed over time, but it's nice. It's a good shift.
Yeah. It's hard not to feel like you need to do everything together when you have that limited time. Like, okay, let's all go to the grocery store. Let's all do this together. It's like, well, let's divide and conquer. So then when we do come back together, we actually have more time.
Right. Or yeah, my husband would be like, I'll take them to the playground or, whatever. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm positive I can take them to the playground. Like,
Yeah.
you can go do something else, or like, I'll take them to the grocery store. Yeah, it's funny. It's realizing like, yeah, like you said, you don't have to be together for everything. It doesn't make sense half the time. So,
Yep. One more thing I wanted to chat with you about is kind of just like dating your husband again, right? Like you mentioned going out without the kids. You guys took a cycling class together. I love cycling. I have a Peloton bike and I have a Peloton treadmill now, and they have changed my life.
yeah.
I did cycling back at that fitness center I told you about back in Sacramento, and I miss my live classes for sure. There's nothing like that beats that energy. It's like you're in a dance club,
Right.
and everyone, just the vibe is just incredible. So even something that looks like that, right? You're not like at a romantic dinner and holding hands, like going to a movie, but you're doing something together and connecting. And just how does that look for you with 3 kids? You mentioned it doesn't happen that often.
No. So we probably go out once a year, which is not a lot, but we don't have help with our kids at all. And we don't have like a regular babysitter. And my in-laws live out of state. So like if they come in state, they're more than happy if they come to visit to watch the kids and that kind of thing. So we went to a volunteer fire department had their centennial celebration, and we got dressed up and we went out for that, and it was fun. But yeah, other than that, I think we've kind of realized too, that's not necessarily our favorite thing to do, especially having little kids. Like we don't mind being there for bedtime, and like, our kids are still really little, so they're a little bit needy and that kind of thing. So we'd rather just not have to like plan for a babysitter for the bedtime and that kind of thing. We'd rather be home for it. So we'll go We went to a cycling class like before dinner. Like it was, early afternoon, but we're like, this is such an easy time of day for our kids. They're playing, they're happy. Like they don't even need dinner yet. So let's go do it. And I think that was like the first class we had taken together in ages. I mean, since we were dating probably. But yeah, I think it's just changed my idea of like our date nights are not necessarily what other people would do for date night, but again, when he's home during the day, like we might go out to lunch or we might even go out to breakfast as a family. And like to me, that's no different than like someone else's date night. You know what I mean? We might have a kid or two or three in tow, but it's just easier, I think. We don't have those sitters, we don't have family to help with that. And that'll change, I'm sure, too, as our kids get older. We'll be more comfortable leaving them at bedtime and that kind of thing. But for us right now, I think it's just easier, like to take those hour, like go get coffee, go get lunch, go do an exercise class together. So yeah, it's not probably most people wouldn't have that as like their ideal date night or date idea. But for us, it just is what works, at the moment. And like I said, it'll probably change as our kids get older. So
Yeah.
you guys?
For us, we really probably a similar mindset. We don't have family that lives close in the area. My in-laws are also out of state.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has 5 adopted of my cousins, so her plate is very full. And so it just looks really different to get family support, and then being comfortable with a babysitter took us a very long time. Now our kids are 4 and 5, so our comfort level is a little bit different.
Right.
The same thing with bedtime, though.
Yeah.
We're not comfortable with that yet. So if we do late night, like we usually come back, to do bedtime, or we have family here, but that is rare.
Right.
And a lot of our first dates early on were like breakfast and coffee dates, the same type of a thing. So it's very different evolving in your relationship and then becoming a parent and figuring out what you're comfortable with and what the other partner is comfortable with. And we also have cameras in the house, and we tell all our babysitters that, like, the few that we now have, that, we will check in on the cameras. And if you need anything, let us know. We're, in touch with them the whole time that we're gone. But I think it's also just part of being like first responder family. Our fears are very real.
Right.
And so our comfort level is very different than other people. And we've also done like swapping with our friends before, like other fire couples or other friends, where like we've watched their kids and they've watched ours so that we could do, dates, which has been really nice, because then our kids have like a built-in play date too, and they're super stoked to be with their friends.
Right.
And it just looks different,
Yeah, I think for us too, it's like it's almost easier sometimes. I remember when our oldest was born, when she was a baby, she was in daycare because I was still teaching, and I happened to have like teacher work day or a random holiday off that her daycare was open, and I was like so torn on like, do we send her? I'm home, and we went to a winery that day, and I was like, this was the best decision. She doesn't know any different because it's her normal routine. He's off because it's like happens to be one of his days off. So we've had those like very rare, like, what do we do? But yeah, I'd say most of our like dates now are just our 2 oldest are in school full time, and like it'll be our youngest son. He's hardly with us, but we'll go out to lunch and things. And in the moment, I don't think of that as like a date, but that's kind of like just how it pans out, I think.
Yeah. It's just having that time to connect with each other again and find how you can, even if it doesn't maybe fit the ideal, like you said, but it's what you can have, and you make it that special, time together.
Yeah. I think the last time when we went to this, volunteer fire stations, centennial celebration, it was like a big thing, everyone was dressed up. It was very formal. And it was really fun, but we came home to our 2-year-old like still being awake, still had to be put down for bed because he wouldn't go down for my in-laws, and we're all dressed up and we're like, okay, that was fun, but like I'm glad we don't do that often. This is not our normal, our normal routine. So yeah, I think it's fun every once in a while. We've had like weddings here and there, but again, it's a lot different after having kids. So
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, thanks for sharing all that, Katie. I enjoyed getting to chat with you more. I love your energy, and I know this is just the first of many times we'll chat. So feel free to check us out, Fire Family Collective. Thank you, Katie, and we'll talk soon.
thank you.